Now to that CBS 2 investigators exclusive, a story about another bad raid by Chicago police that the city's legal team is trying to stop us from telling you. It involves an innocent woman getting handcuffed, naked, with a dozen male officers watching. Now, she wants you to see the body camera video, but tonight the city went to federal court to try to keep it secret. Here's CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini.
I had just gotten home from work. And when I was undressing in my bedroom.
It was a cold February night, and Anjanette Young, a social worker, had just finished her shift at the hospital.
You see them running up to the apartment complex with the battering ram in their hand, a crowbar. It was so traumatic to hear the way the thing was hitting the door. And it happened so fast, I didn't have time to put on clothes.
And suddenly, she found herself frozen in fear. Completely naked. In a room full of men. 9 body cameras rolling.
And you're just standing there.
And I'm just standing there. I mean, terrified, humiliated, not even understanding why in that moment that this is happening to me.
And the first thing police reach for is not clothing. It's handcuffs.
There were big guns and guns with lights and scopes on them, and they were yelling at me, you know, put your hands up, put your hands up.
What are you thinking right now?
I just remember, you know, being so afraid. It's one of those moments where I just felt like that I could have died that night. If I had made one wrong move, I felt like they would have shot me. I truly believe that they would have shot me.
A police officer wraps a short coat around her shoulder, still leaving her front fully exposed. Even the sergeant in charge of the raid just stands there talking to her while she has nothing covering her.
You're telling me to relax something you guys have just... My name is Anjanette Young. What is going on?
Then she gets a blanket.
They just threw something over me. And my hands are behind my back and I'm handcuffed. So there was no way for me to secure the blanket that they put around me.
But the blanket just keeps sliding open. More humiliation.
You need to tell me what you're looking for. What are you looking for?
You can see how some officers just stand there until this one, wearing a mask, sees what's happening and goes and holds it in place.
It felt like forever for me. It felt like forever.
Oh my God, this cannot be right. How is this legal?
Listen how she repeatedly tells the raid team they were in the wrong place.
You have the wrong place. You got the wrong house. You got the wrong house.
We counted. She says it at least 43 times.
You got the wrong house.
And she was right. They were in the wrong house. Our investigation uncovered police failed to do the most basic research before getting the search warrant approved. We found they simply took the word of an informant who gave them Anjanette Young's address. The informant claimed a 23-year-old man who was a known felon had a gun and ammo inside.
I don't know who that person is. I've been living here for 4 years and nobody lives here but me. Okay, you don't have to shout. I don't have to shout. This is ridiculous. You got me in here because I'm naked. You've kicked my house in. And I keep telling you, you got the wrong place.
Then, during the raid, something happens. Watch as 2 of the officers go to their squad car and begin reviewing their notes about the warrant. CPD would not comment on what you're about to hear the officers saying a few minutes later.
It wasn't initially approved or some crap. What does that mean? I have no idea, because they told him it was approved, and then I guess that person messed up on their end.
Messed up is an understatement. So, where was the target? Our investigation revealed he was awaiting trial on home confinement here at a different apartment in Anjanette Young's complex. How easy would it have been to locate him? Easy. Real easy. Because he was wearing a police tracking device, an electronic monitoring bracelet. It's possible he could have even heard the raid happening, because records show He was confined to the unit right next door.
But I'm telling you it's wrong. I'm asking you to let me call somebody. I'm asking you to let me put some clothes on. I'll sit here and let you do whatever you need to do. But let me call somebody, let me call an attorney, because I'm telling you this is wrong. I have nothing to do with whoever this person is you're looking for.
We found if they would have done a little bit more research, they might have found where the target actually lived.
Yes.
I think Screw Up was being too kind, because ultimately this is a constitutional rights issue. And
Keenan
so,
Salter is Anjanette Young's attorney and is suing the police department.
if this had been a young woman in Lincoln Park by herself in her home, naked, a young white woman, let's just be frank, if the reaction would have been the same. I don't think it would have been. I think they would have saw that woman, rightfully so, as someone who was vulnerable, someone who deserved protection, someone who deserved to have their dignity maintained. They viewed Ms. Young as less than human.
Can I please call somebody?
Yeah, man, relax. Just relax, all right?
How can I relax when this is going on?
They did eventually walk her to a room to remove the handcuffs so she could get dressed, but then put them right back on and kept questioning her.
There are no firearms in this place.
There's no gun in this place. I'm a social worker. I've been a social worker for 20 years. I follow the law. I don't get in trouble for anything. I don't do illegal stuff. I'm not that person. You got the wrong information.
At this point, the sergeant in charge of the raid tells the officer who got the warrant to step outside.
Let's go talk outside.
But you won't hear it because once outside, the body camera is shut off. Back inside Anjanette's home, another officer finally uncuffs her. She had been bound for 20 minutes. Listen as the sergeant returns with a new message.
We believe your story.
And you can see him trying to fix the door they busted so she could close it and lock it. But it was too damaged to repair, so watch as they try to find something to wedge it shut. They settle on an ironing board.
Surreal?
Surreal. It's almost like a bad movie. When I watch this, I feel like I'm watching a movie. But those are no actors. I'm no actor. This is my real life. And it happened to me. They're adding trauma to people's lives that will be with them for the rest of their lives. The work is warranted. They need to do the work, but they need to do it right. They can't just callously do it and leave people's lives in ruins because they got it wrong.
The sergeant in charge apologized to her before he left. CPD has refused to comment on this case. It's been 2 years since the raid, and COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, says they're still in the process of trying to interview all of the officers involved. They did not say if anyone has been disciplined. At City Hall, Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators. Fires and explosions. This is not the peaceful protest that city leaders asked for.
We've seen this build. I want to immediately say that from our 911 call, it took Chicago firefighters, police officers, about 10 minutes to get here.
This is the corner of Madison and Dearborn where they've started a squad car, an unmarked squad, on fire. And
when we initially started broadcasting here and showing you these pictures live, it was smoldering inside.
Jeremy Ross, thanks so much. We're going to go straight to Chopper 2. Jeanette Hudson giving us an update of what you're seeing out there.
Looks like a bomb went off.
It does look like a bomb went off. Right now we are outside the Best Buy on North Avenue near Clybourne, and we've been watching this. It was looted earlier, and now it looks like there may be more people back to try looting it again.
Were you able to salvage or walk away with anything?
The only thing I salvaged, I took it out of the window. I sort of tapped a fireman on the corner, and he looked that way, and I reached in. And Grandpa's first camera that he ever sold.
There's a foot chase right now in Macy's. Police are in here chasing looters. They're running up and down the stairwells. They just found them. You could see Macy's has been devastated. You see the police are running. Brad, can you see that? They're all running through now.
She's winning her battle against cancer, but she can't beat the city of Chicago.
Our investigation into the city's broken water billing system, getting hosed, was put on hold by COVID-19. Now the city's back open, but the system's still broken. Tonight, Camilla Batten, not only did she get hosed by the city, she got bulldozed.
$3,051.56. And it kept going up every year.
That's how much 72-year-old Camilla Batten owed.
in water bills for the house with a red X on top until we got involved.
$0? Get out.
You get out.
I don't owe nothing anymore.
Nothing.
God bless y'all. Thank you.
In fact,
Oh my goodness.
the city owes you money.
They do?
$3,000.
Get out.
You get out.
God bless y'all.
Add it to the list of those getting hosed.
We're trying to get a fair bill.
Customers' bills remedied after the CBS 2 investigators interceded. Camilla Batten gets the amount and a credit.
Well, at least I got $0. That's really, thank God. Oh, thank you so much.
We've been working on Miss Batten's bill.
I saw y'all on TV helping other people that need help. I said, let me phone. Maybe they'll be able to help me.
Since June of 2019, long before COVID-19, before face masks and, frankly, fear.
It may take us a while, but we're gonna help you out. Month after month, you pay the city $120 for water.
Yes.
For that house you haven't lived in how long?
Almost 9 years, yes.
Do you see a problem with that?
Yeah, I see a big problem with it. Somebody's having fun with that money.
Then we lost her. She left her assisted living center. She got endometrial cancer, uterine.
It is sad, but it's the truth.
Then we found her. COVID happened. The city wiped the $3,000, admitted it owed her 3 more. Pretty typical whoopsie-daisy, inexplicable, only fixable when CBS 2 investigators get involved. But wait, there's more.
Well, they got the fight sign with the red X on it.
The X means unlivable, too dangerous, illegal to enter. No one lived here. Vacant is supposed to stop the billing. Her property was listed as vacant with 2 different apartments, but her bills kept coming until
they tore the house down.
The property was a court-ordered teardown in 2014, but for the last 5 years it sat there empty, yet accumulating thousands in water bills and thousands more in building violations. Then in October 19, the city suddenly demoed it.
Now, they didn't tell me they was going to tear the house down.
The city says they did tell her, but the city has a history of not notifying homeowners when they plan to destroy their homes. Here's a 1997 federal lawsuit. Miss Batten's was scheduled for an FTD, fast-track demolition. Basically, the property was dangerous. Her fast-track demolition took 5 years. Now, Miss Batten, per this document we received from the city in our Freedom of Information Act request, Miss Batten deeded her house to a church in 2013. But the city says it wasn't filed properly. Either way, at one point in time, Miss Batten was actually billed for water for a house that wasn't even there.
A little bit of con, a little bit of rip-off. People get away with whatever they want to.
Everyone does agree the city did get a hold of Miss Batten in one instance.
They charged me $18,000 to tear the house down. Oh, yeah.
With this $18,000 bill for the house demo in 2019, she says she didn't know about. She was in the midst of a cancer fight.
That would really make you even sicker. You know, the bills and the people coming out to you.
That's where we stand. Water bill wipe. But to get the water overbilling refund back, she's got to fill out this form, send in every receipt, every canceled check, every proof of payment.
When I get this money, you'll get as good as mine.
The refund process, we know, can take from weeks to infinity.
It was terrible, but I'm glad I got through it.
A lot of fights while fighting for her life.
I had to pray a lot.
She believes the good Lord kept her on earth. Now, if there was just a saint to pray to reconcile bungled bureaucracy.
Thank all y'all so much. That's a blessing.
Flashes of smoke and fire, officers in riot gear, protesters at the ready. Tonight, Wisconsin's Kenosha County teetering on the edge.
Our Charlie DeMar joins us live from the center of the unrest tonight. Charlie.
Brad and Erica, this has been the flashpoint for several hours here. We are in front of the Kenosha County Courthouse. You can see there are dozens of sheriff's deputies here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bearcats, armored vehicles along this line here. And if you take a little further look, you can see those flames. That is a city dump truck that is on fire.
17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, part of the brigade last night, wore a white hat, green shirt, blue gloves, carrying with him a long gun and, it appears, permission. Listen to what appears to be a hasty confession. The mayor of Kenosha making it very clear they do not want any citizens to show up as some sort of police effort, armed or otherwise. That is a clear message to stay away from Kenosha.
This was a 100-year-old building, a family-run mattress store. For one man who risked his life defending it, it was much more than that.
It's hard. God, this is hard.
She surveyed the damage up close for the first time today. Every inch of Sue Moniz and Keith McCarty's mattress store is destroyed. But they've had something else on their minds. Well, someone else.
He's teeny, but he loves fiercely, and he's just my hero.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm very sorry about that, man.
Armed with nothing but a fire extinguisher, 70-year-old Robert Cobb tried to defend his friend Sue's shop from a group of arsonists and looters Monday night.
They just threw a bottle at this guy.
The whole thing was caught on camera. We want to warn our viewers, it's difficult to watch. Fresh from a double bypass surgery, Robert was standing guard until someone punched him so hard in the face that he collapsed to the sidewalk.
I can't. I can't. And I can't even think about how bad it could have been. I mean, it's bad enough. They broke his jaw.
Robert playfully dodged our cameras most of the day because he said he wants the story to be about how much the Kenosha community loves his friend Sue. It's funny because Sue said the story is about Robert's bravery. Either way, their reunion was beautiful.
All new and exclusive on 2. Attacked in a Bucktown alley. A father takes a bullet defending his family.
Hundreds break quarantine rules, packing a Northbrook hotel for a wedding.
A landlord says she's being held hostage by a tenant who trashed the place and left her stuff behind.
A mom and daughter screaming, pleading with carjackers in a Bucktown alley. The dad shot, trying to help.
Tonight, the family sharing those terrifying minutes with only our Jermont Terry.
Within seconds of the stolen red Audi pulling up, a gunman jumps out. Tina Ariola and her daughter find a gun pointing at them in Bucktown.
I was trying to stay very calm. I was very angry, but I was going to comply.
You can hear Tina's daughter tell her mom to follow the gunman's demands.
Mom, get up! Mom, get up! Don't worry, she's listening, she's listening.
The gunman gets their cell phones, wallet, and car keys. But it's something the robber says in this alley behind their house which leaves Tina feeling more uneasy.
They said, turn around and get down on the ground. And that was what made me hesitant and saying, I don't know that I want to go out like this.
Look to the left. The driver of the red Audi is standing outside waiting for his buddy to get the Porsche.
Car was taken.
That Audi stolen at gunpoint from a woman in Lakeview hours earlier. He reverses, thinking the carjacking is a done deal. But those earlier screams forces Dave,
I was literally sitting on the couch,
Tina's husband, to come running out to the alley. You never even got this far out.
I never made it over the fence.
You never made it?
Always inside the yard.
The man turns and shoots Dave instantly. It has to be eerie for you to stand here because it's where you were shot, but it's also where you had so much concern for your family, your wife and your daughter at that moment.
I mean, all I could think about, especially as it gets further away from it, is how inconsolable I would be if something happened to them.
He's our hero.
Luckily, went right parallel to the bone, so it didn't shatter the bone, it just broke it.
It shattered this family's sense of security along with others in near Northside neighborhoods.
Our neighborhood is under siege here. Our community is under attack.
This attack is part of a troubling trend this year. More than 1,100 carjackings across Chicago and growing.
It's not just about, hey, I'm out having a good time grabbing a cell phone. You know, people will die. And I'm so fortunate that I'm not dead or no one in my family is dead.
I am ordering all bars and restaurants in the state of Illinois to close to the public as of the close of business Monday night, March 16th.
The first fatality attached to the COVID-19 outbreak. It's a woman in her 60s from Chicago.
This virus is unforgiving.
When we first took a look 2 weeks ago, 5 neighborhoods had the worst deaths. South Shore, Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, Austin, and Chatham. It was bad then. It is worse now.
Are you guys feeling okay? We spoke to people in line at the Dunning drive-through COVID testing site. Okay, so from a distance, over the phone, while they stayed in their car.
One question, how long have you waited in line here?
We've been here since 10:30.
We love visiting with you.
They say eyes are the window to the soul.
It's nice to see each other, right?
And at this window in time, 90-year-old memory care patient Dorothy can see her daughter.
We miss you. We always miss you.
We could go to everybody's house and just deliver their diplomas. Why not?
Oh yeah!
We do a full graduation ceremony in the driveways.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with you today in your driveway to celebrate with you and Ryan.
To be able to visit their homes.
And know that we will always be here to support you.
Be with their families and still social distance.
Yes.
There you go. After 72 days battling COVID-19, Carol Stream's Chuck Drangelo finally felt the fresh air outside Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital and felt an embrace from loved ones who weren't certain any of this would be possible.
He needed a walker to help him take his first steps back home, a place he hasn't seen since being hospitalized in April. But like the t-shirt says, Wayne Custa is virus-free.
It was no fun getting COVID-19. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Nobody else.
You beat it.
I beat it.
A charismatic thief planning an elaborate con game to steal people's money. If it sounds like the plot of a Hollywood hit, it is. Remember, Catch Me If You Can?
We've got a real-life drama with a similar plot unfolding right here, right now. CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker tracks down the star of the Chicago charade and discovers a past you wouldn't expect.
There is clearly something special about Candace Clark.
Good afternoon.
She often stands before a room full of admirers.
I appreciate people wanting the same things that I'm wanting and looking for justice the same way that I'm looking for justice.
Her resume boasts an undergrad degree in criminology from UIC, an MBA from DePaul, prestigious positions in community service.
Director Clark has created a new program called the Robbins Reconstruction Act.
All of this is impressive. None of it is true. The UIC degree? Never happened. MBA from DePaul? Nope. All these jobs? No record. Community service? No history.
Then raise your right hand.
So why is Clark standing before a judge taking an oath?
I, Candace Clark.
Not just once, but often.
Affirm.
February, May, and November.
And the laws of the state of Illinois.
Candace Clark is the first African American woman to hold the Director of Special Investigations position in the state of Illinois.
But this is all fake. There is no such position in the state of Illinois.
We must document this occasion.
So who are these people, and why are they attending a phony ceremony? Why? Because Candace Clark hired them. Rich Daniels, City Lights Orchestra.
The strength to carry on.
Singer Suzanne Palmer. In the audience, extras sent by a local casting company.
And repeat after me.
Remember the judge?
And raise your right hand.
Independent film actress Jamie Newell.
You burned a building down with a lame stunt.
Just another minute, folks.
Newell actually helped produce some of the ceremonies, design the flyers, and introduce Clark to other performers, a decision she now regrets.
It really broke my heart.
Newell says she fell for the elaborate tale Clark weaved about judges and state officials
I, Candace Clark,
not being available for Clark's swearing-in ceremonies, so she was given permission to hire actors.
In order for her to begin her job with the state, she needed to be sworn in, and that the swearing in needed to be videotaped.
There was just something about her that made you like her?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm honored to...
I felt proud that she was the first African American in this position.
Great pleasure and a privilege.
And to know that it was all a fake, a hoax.
In addition to the emotional hit, Newell's pocketbook took a punch.
No, nobody has been paid.
Add up what Clark owes Newell, the singers, musicians, casting company, sign language interpreter, and extras, is nearly $21,000. In late October, Newell finally learned from a friend Clark never worked for the government and everyone had been duped.
I was blown away. I was mortified. I was shocked. I don't understand people that do stuff like this.
You have to be scratching your head by now and wondering, why did Clark do this? What was she after?
I went undercover at one of the ceremonies looking for answers. My iPhone video is a little shaky because I'm nervous as Clark is walking toward me. I think I've been made.
I'm sorry, but this is supposed to be invitation only.
She couldn't figure out how she knew me, but she knew she didn't hire me. She politely asked me to leave.
And we don't even know who invited you, so.
I was kicked out.
No problem.
I left, but soon returned to confront Clark. There's a civil suit against you. People were trying to find you.
Get out of my face.
Can you guys stop?
No, I'd like her to answer some questions.
I'm gonna ask.
The main question, why produce this elaborate hoax? We're not the only ones asking.
I just want to understand, like, what's the purpose?
The question comes from members of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
I believe justice is justice.
They believed Clark was a prominent state official because they had attended her ceremonies.
We were believing that this woman would be of assistance to us.
And a community.
At the time, they had no idea most of these people were actors.
Director Clark has created a new program.
Reading from a script Clark had written. Then one of them came across this Facebook post calling Clark a scammer. They now wonder if they were her next target.
Very displeased. Just very displeased.
She got me good.
Darlene Simmons posted that Facebook message.
She got me good.
Simmons met Clark in 2014. At the time, Clark was pretending to be a real estate agent, showing her several places.
So
Simmons had poor credit, so Clark offered to use Simmons' money but put the house in her name.
The following year, she'll have it turned over in my name.
As you might imagine, Simmons never got a new home, and she ended up losing $73,000 to Clark.
She's a devil. That 401k, I worked 40 years at the Tribune for. 40 years to have it taken from me.
I was not expecting all of this.
How could you do that?
I wasn't prepared.
This woman, who has lied about her resume, pretended to be a state employee and a real estate agent, is a graduate of Percy Julian High School and a 2-time felon for fraud and impersonating a police officer.
Candace didn't start with me, and she's not going to end with me. She needs to be stopped.
So what are you doing?
Get out
What
of
are you
my
doing?
face.
Will authorities ever catch Clark? That's what we'll keep asking. Dorothy Tucker, CBS 2 Investigators.
Get out of my face.
But we begin with breaking news. Several hundred protesters marching through Lincoln Park. A look now from Chopper 2.
The crowd is growing by the minute. I've talked to many people in the crowd so far already today. They, peace, peace, peace is all they keep saying. No justice, no peace. This will be a peaceful protest.
What we have been seeing, peaceful protests here. Hundreds of people, all the signs that we are familiar with from a lot of the protests from yesterday as well.
Let me see your ID.
You are watching what Chicago police call an investigatory stop. The city blurred the video.
You know what? Stay here.
These kinds of stops are touted as a critical crime prevention tactic by police, but the people they're stopping so often say their rights are being violated.
So you get to this part of the parking lot.
Right.
And at this moment, where's the gun?
The gun's already chest shot, aimed at me.
Take the case of Marcus Smith. That's him in the video. Police stopped him at gunpoint.
I see his finger on the trigger. I slowly put my hands up, just like that.
It happened in 2017. Marcus had just gotten off the L and was walking to meet his mom, who was picking him up for Thanksgiving dinner.
I saw him standing there with his hands in the air and a gun pointed to his chest. And I said, oh my God, oh my God.
The cop who drew his weapon was this man, Officer Eric Puskovich.
And you're thinking, at this point,
he can pull that trigger any given second.
CPD policy says officers can stop anyone if they suspect they are involved with a crime. But Marcus Smith did absolutely nothing wrong and wasn't a suspect.
You know what? Stay here.
But Officer Puskovich and his partner Jose Lopez stopped him anyway. Why? Because they said they didn't like the way he walked.
So all I saw was you coming up with you're walking, you saw us, and we're like this. And that's what I saw. And that's what my partner saw too.
So you think you were stopped just because you were walking?
Walking while black, yeah.
He says good thing his mom was there because Puskovich didn't lower his handgun until he realized she was witnessing it all happen.
I'm continuing to say, sir, sir, that's my son, sir.
It's against CPD policy, Rule 38, for an officer to unnecessarily display their weapon.
So you pulled the gun out because what did you think he was doing? No tasers, no nothing, just
instant gun.
Police are required to use body cams during these stops, and in 2018, not long after this one, CPD announced every patrol officer had been given a camera.
This is, as they call it, an investigatory stop. He's going to document everything that happened. We have body cameras.
But is that true? The CBS 2 investigators wanted to know if CPD's body camera program is really working, so we requested all of the investigatory stop data since 2018. And discovered a total of 345,000 stops were made. But we'll never see what really happened during thousands of those stops because we found officers routinely fail to activate their body cams. And some cops were never even issued body cams. According to CPD data, the grand total where no body cam video exists adds up to 62,000 stops.
The fact that we don't have body camera footage for over 60,000 stops, that's problematic. And quite frankly, I'm kind of disgusted.
William Calloway is the community activist who fought for transparency after the Laquan McDonald killing. He also forced the release of the one video that captured those 16 shots.
What really makes me very, very angry is that even after everything we've been through, we still fighting for transparency.
And it's not just about how often CPD's transparency fails, it's also about where. We mapped all of the investigatory stop data right down to the police beat and neighborhood.
If you're stopped here near the corner of Damon and Milwaukee in the Wicker Park neighborhood, a mostly white neighborhood, Chicago Police Department data reveals there's almost a 100% chance your stop will be recorded on a body camera. But it's a very different story over here near 92nd and Wabash on the city's south side in an almost completely black neighborhood. You might as well flip a coin when it comes to body cameras being used here because the data reveals police didn't use them in this area nearly 50% of the time.
Brett and Erica, since the start of the pandemic, we've requested interviews with IDES, but we've only received written statements from their spokesperson. The story you're about to see is a story the agency and its lead attorney didn't want to talk about.
Since March, we watched unemployment numbers skyrocket in Illinois. Now more than 1.4 million without jobs. We told the stories of the people who lost their jobs overnight, but waited months for help.
We've been waiting 3-4 months already.
From the beginning, our reporting has revealed the issues at the state level, causing those people to struggle to successfully file for and receive benefits. From a website that crashed because it couldn't handle the surge of claims, to a data leak IDES called a glitch, exposing thousands of personal records, to staffing issues making it impossible for claimants to get through over the phone.
Our Chris Ty is live with this betrayal, a bizarre one of the most personal information.
Brad, as you know, we have covered this story from stem to stern, and as you use the word bizarre, we've covered the fraud, we've covered the months-long cleanup to fix an individual case, we've covered promises at the top and changes at administrators, and we've promised to keep checking into this to see what twists and turns it might take. We never saw this twist coming. One man received 11 letters from the state, including the names of individuals, strangers to him, and those key 9 numbers that we are all told to keep close to the vest.
It's just wrong. It's every kind of wrong.
That wrong arrived right in Joe Erbauer's mailbox.
Last Friday, December 18th, I think it was.
One at a time, he opened 11 pieces of mystery mail.
I was in disbelief.
Each addressed to him from the state's unemployment office, IDES, with some curious content.
So I have 11 letters in this envelope that have different people's names and different people's social security numbers.
The letters were intended for Illinoisans named Abed and Francis and Karen and Laura and Martin and 6 others. We blacked out their full names and social security numbers. The state was writing to alert them that they were the victims of unemployment fraud. So, in an effort to alert them to a scam, the state printed out, mismailed and revealed private data that would be like Christmas to crooks.
Behind the scenes, behind the lines, inside the stories others won't tell. The Morning Insiders.
It's like the Wild Wild West, he says, and this morning the general manager for a Canadian hauling company is expected to hear if he'll have to pay a nearly $20,000 bill from a Chicago tow yard.
The emergency hearing starts in just a few hours. This is the GM's second time getting tangled with Chicago's towing industry. Morning Insider Lauren Victory explains what he's doing now that he's had enough.
After storms roared through Chicago last week, one of Joe Smelko's trucks rolled through debris.
Thankfully, the police arrived and, escorted us to our site.
The Canadian hauler was damaged but drivable. Officers left it with the shaken up but uninjured Roadstar Trucking driver. Then a tow truck showed up.
Next thing you know, they're being asked to sign something they don't really understand.
And with that, the semi was suddenly whisked away to VIP towing on 103rd and Normal.
We're being held hostage.
The ransom? $18,573. The irony? This is Roadstar Trucking's second $18,000 Chicago towing bill. The first came from Citywide Recovery after a November 2019 incident that looked worse than it was, according to Smelko.
In both these cases, neither one of these tow companies were called by us.
Can you come outside? CBS 2 made a recent house call to Citywide Recovery to ask about a California company's nearly $9,000 bill.
Are you able to send me the receipt?
The Citywide Recovery employee did, but was unable to explain why his version was $5,000 cheaper than the one submitted to insurance. This same company has been cited by the city for multiple consumer fraud violations.
Do you work here?
At VIP, defense of the company's prices.
Towing is expensive. It's not cheap. Why do people think that towing is cheap? It's not. Not when you do professional towing.
But for $18,000, that's how much.
It would be $18,000. Can you tell me why it shouldn't be $18,000?
Well, because an international hauling business would know.
Tonight, Rod Blagojevich on the move, on a plane to his Ravenswood home tonight, just hours after President Donald Trump commuted his sentence. This video tonight of Blagojevich at the Denver International Airport minutes before he boarded, destination Chicago. CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov is on the plane with Blagojevich.
Dana spoke to the former governor before they both boarded, and just like old times, Blagojevich did not mince words.
Good evening. We caught up with former Governor Rod Blagojevich here at the Denver airport at the gate, the United Gate, minutes before he got on the flight to head home for the first time in almost 8 years. He says he still has a lot to say and plans to say a lot over the next day or so. But tonight he said he is grateful. He had no idea that his sentence was going to be commuted today. He said that, in fact, he heard about it from another inmate and then heard about it on the news. One of the things that went through his head is, should I go for a run? Do I have time for a run? Because he said it didn't really sink in. But now he is on his way home, and he says that he, of course, looks forward to seeing his wife and his 2 daughters and other family members after, again, almost 8 years in prison.
I can't wait to see my kids, of course, and Patty is a devoted and loving wife, and I've been blessed and fortunate to walk through life with her. It's been almost 8 years. But it's been a long journey, but I think the appropriate thing to say is that I speak for Patty, for my daughters Amy and Annie, and for me when I express our most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for doing what he did. I put my faith in God and I trusted God, and eventually his will be done. I'm going to fight against a corrupt criminal justice system that all too often persecutes and prosecutes people who did nothing wrong, who over-sentence people, who show no mercy, and who are in positions that have no accountability. They can do it and say whatever they want. I think this is the ending of the first act of a 2-act play, and tomorrow begins the second act. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done in the second act.
Obviously, things have to settle down once he gets home. He says he will be talking to people tomorrow at his house. One of the short-term goals he has, and a gratifying one, is he looks forward to having a banana split over the next couple of days. But he plans again to say more outside of his home later. We are going to get on the flight and fly home with him as well. And of course, if there's anything else he says of note, we'll make sure to get that back to you.
They
They knew that they had did something wrong. They knew that the way they treated me was not right.
Tonight, 2 women in tears. One, the victim of a botched police raid. The other, the mayor, who finally admits she let her down.
It's been painful and upsetting. It's not okay. This man who's walking up to me and putting me in handcuffs, and I have no clothes on.
Now, after nearly a 2-year court battle to bury the body cam video, a battle waged by the mayor's office, that mayor out with a new promise to all of Chicago.
We will do better, and we will win back the trust that we have lost this week.
Good evening. Unprecedented movement today in the story CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini first broke. Mayor Lori Lightfoot calling a news conference to make a series of stunning admissions and propose sweeping cultural changes within the Chicago Police Department, even a proposal to change state law.
This is My Name is Anjanette Young, a CBS 2 investigator's special presentation. We are going to spend the next hour without commercials looking at a systemic problem within CPD. Shoddy police work leading officers to bust down wrong door after wrong door, traumatizing innocent families.
Let's start with the about face at City Hall. The admission. The mayor knew about Anjanette's story a year ago, despite her claims yesterday that she didn't.
Since I spoke yesterday, I have now become aware that in November of 19, when CBS was doing a continued reporting on the series of search warrant cases, some of the reporting included, I think you mentioned this yesterday, Dana, Miss Young's case. I knew generally about the reporting, which is what prompted me to have our chief risk officer get involved to reform the search warrant process, but I've now come to learn that in November of 19, this Miss Young's case and others were lifted up to my attention.
The mayor was told about it. She knew about it. Later on, she said she may have been busy, distracted with the budget.
We want to bring in CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini. Dave, this story now getting attention across the globe. You sat down with the mayor one-on-one after that explosive news conference. I'd love to start with your first impressions of that meeting.
Well, Brad and Marie, we've been asking for this interview ever since the mayor took office. We wanted to talk to her about this disturbing pattern of wrong raids we had been uncovering in the city. We wanted to talk to her about the victims. We never got that interview. We asked repeatedly and never got it. Well, we got it now, and it took Anjanette Young's worldwide exposure of the humiliation to that woman during that botched raid for her to finally sit down with us. We interviewed a very tired mayor. She appeared to be tired. She appeared to be very angry, and she said she was very angry. And you're going to hear the questions that I had for her throughout this hour, and you're going to hear the answers that she gives me.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much. We're going to hear more from you and from that interview throughout this hour. First, though, we do want to go back a bit. The extraordinary events of today started with the courage and determination of Anjanette Young to fight for video of her mistaken raid and to tell her story.
For more perspective about our conversation tonight, we want to show you her terrifying ordeal.
I just gotten home from work, and while I was undressing in my bedroom,
it was a cold February night, and Anjanette Young, a social worker, had just finished her shift at the hospital.
You see them running up to the apartment complex with the battering ram in their hand, a crowbar. It was so traumatic to hear the way the thing was hitting the door. And it happened so fast, I didn't have time to put on clothes.
And suddenly, she found herself frozen in fear. Completely naked. In a room full of men. 9 body cameras rolling.
And you're just standing there.
And I'm just standing there. I mean, terrified, humiliated, not even understanding why in that moment that this is happening to me.
And the first thing police reach for is not clothing. It's handcuffs.
There were big guns and guns with lights and scopes on them, and they were yelling at me, you know, put your hands up, put your hands up.
What are you thinking right now?
I just remember, you know, being so afraid. It's one of those moments where I just felt like that I could have died that night. If I had made one wrong move, I felt like they would have shot me. I truly believe that they would have shot me.
A police officer wraps a short coat around her shoulder, still leaving her front fully exposed. Even the sergeant in charge of the raid just stands there talking to her while she has nothing covering her. Then she gets a blanket.
They just threw something over me. And my hands are behind my back and I'm handcuffed. So there was no way for me to secure the blanket that they put around me.
But the blanket just keeps sliding open. More humiliation.
You need to tell me what you're looking for. What are you looking for?
You can see how some officers just stand there until this one, wearing a mask, sees what's happening and goes and holds it in place.
It felt like forever for me. It felt like forever.
Listen how she repeatedly tells the raid team they were in the wrong place. We counted. She says it at least 43 times. And she was right. They were in the wrong house. Our investigation uncovered police failed to do the most basic research before getting the search warrant approved. We found they simply took the word of an informant who gave them Anjanette Young's address. The informant claimed a 23-year-old man who was a known felon had a gun and ammo inside.
I don't know who that person is. I've been living here for 4 years and nobody lives here but me. Okay, you don't have to shout. I don't have to shout. This is ridiculous. You got me in here because I'm naked. You kicked my house in. And I keep telling you, you got the wrong place.
Then, during the raid, something happens. Watch as two of the officers go to their squad car and begin reviewing their notes about the warrant. CPD would not comment on what you're about to hear the officers saying a few minutes later.
It wasn't initially approved or some crap. What does that mean? I have no idea, because they told him it was approved, and then I guess that person messed up on their end.
Messed up is an understatement. So, where was the target? Our investigation revealed he was awaiting trial on home confinement here at a different apartment in Anjanette Young's complex. How easy would it have been to locate him? Easy, real easy, because he was wearing a police tracking device, an electronic monitoring bracelet. It's possible he could have even heard the raid happening, because records show he was confined to the unit right next door.
But I'm telling you it's wrong. I'm asking you to let me call somebody. I'm asking you to let me put some clothes on. I'll sit here and let you do whatever you need to do. But let me call somebody, let me call an attorney, because I'm telling you this is wrong. I have nothing to do with whoever this person is you're looking for.
We found if they would have done a little bit more research, they might have found where the target actually lived.
Yes.
I think Screw Up was being too kind, because ultimately this is a constitutional rights issue.
Keenan Salter is Anjanette Young's attorney and is suing the police department.
If this had been a young woman in Lincoln Park by herself in her home, naked, a young white woman, let's just be frank, if the reaction would have been the same. I don't think it would have been. I think they would have saw that woman, rightfully so, as someone who was vulnerable, someone who deserved protection, someone who deserved to have their dignity maintained. They viewed Ms. Young as less than human.
They did eventually walk her to a room to remove the handcuffs so she could get dressed, but then put them right back on and kept questioning her.
There are no firearms in this place?
There's no gun in this place. I'm a social worker. I've been a social worker for 20 years. I follow the law. I don't get in trouble for anything. I don't do illegal stuff. I'm not that person. You got the wrong information.
At this point, the sergeant in charge of the raid tells the officer who got the warrant to step outside.
Let's go talk outside.
But you won't hear it because once outside, the body camera is shut off. Back inside Anjanette's home, another officer finally uncuffs her. She had been bound for 20 minutes. Listen as the sergeant returns with a new message.
We believe your story.
And you can see him trying to fix the door they busted so she could close it and lock it. But it was too damaged to repair, so watch as they try to find something to wedge it shut. They settle on an ironing board.
Surreal?
Surreal. It's almost like a bad movie. When I watch this, I feel like I'm watching a movie. But those are no actors. I'm no actor. This is my real life. And it happened to me. They're adding trauma to people's lives that will be with them for the rest of their lives. The work is warranted. They need to do the work, but they need to do it right. They can't just callously do it and leave people's lives in ruins because they got it wrong.
It did indeed. Such a visceral reaction here in Chicago and across the country to seeing with our own eyes what happened to Anjanette Young.
And Dave, that really is at the crux of everything in this story. Seeing that video, it's almost impossible to not feel the emotions yourself as you're watching Anjanette so raw and so vulnerable.
Anyone who watches this, it's like a punch in the gut to humanity watching this. You can't sit there and watch a person be treated this way without respect and humiliated by other human beings. You just can't believe it's happening in this country, in this world today. And being in the room with Anjanette while she watched herself on that camera, I'll never see anything like that again. Seeing a person watching herself be treated that way, a very strong, compassionate woman who never expected this to happen, in her own home, getting into her PJs, after a long day of work of being a social worker, dealing with people with traumas, and this is what she's met with on the night that she goes home to relax.
And then had to deal with this burden and carry it for 2 years as the city rejected every effort she made to get it. A question I have, though, I mean, it really does look like Hollywood. She says it looks like Hollywood. I mean, it looks like these guys were coming in to break up the Medellin cartel. Dozen officers, guns drawn, scopes. What again were they looking for?
They were looking for, what an informant told them was a guy with a gun and some ammo, a convicted felon, a guy with a past. They took the word of an informant who, they didn't check out the story. You know, as I said, if they would have done a little digging, they would have found the guy in minutes. We found him right next door with a bracelet on. These are simple police duties that they have, responsibilities that they have to perform to get search warrants right, to protect the rights of the people of the city of Chicago. Anywhere, if you're watching this and you're a police officer anywhere, you know you've got to do this work to protect the innocent.
We talked about how impactful that video was, which makes what happened next at the 11th hour that much more disturbing. After very careful vetting and tedious work to blur that body cam video and protect it as much as possible.
Yeah, we were mere hours away from airing our investigation Monday night, 10 p.m., when the city law department filed a motion in federal court to try to stop the story. Dave?
Yeah, the city law department threw a bombshell at us at the last minute. We didn't expect it. We had been airing the promo. We've been questioning them about the body cameras, and then in the city about them, and the police department. And then all of a sudden, just before the story is going to air, we find out they've gone to court to try to stop CBS 2 from airing the video of Anjanette Young's treatment. It just goes to show you how far they went to try to cover this up. Those videos, those body cameras, have existed while you've been mayor, in the hands of your administration, somewhere in the law department. Police departments had it. We don't even know who's seen it, but it's been here. And you know what your reaction was when you saw it with your the first moment, that gut, what you felt in your gut.
Oh, yeah.
So you know people saw this video in your administration. Does that make you wonder why you didn't know about it?
No, it makes me angry that I didn't know about it. It makes me angry that decisive action wasn't taken the minute that it was seen by other people. That's what it makes me. I have said to many people over the course of this week, including today, to members of the law department, we can't lose sight of the humanity of people who say and bring to us harm that they believe was committed by a city actor. Regardless of which side of the V you're on, plaintiff or defendant. If you get to a point where you lose sight of the fact that this person is a human being entitled to dignity and respect, then it's time for you to go.
People in your administration.
Correct.
People that you trust.
Correct. Well, people in my administration saw this, whether it's police department, law department, COPA. I saw the video, and someone should have acted. Someone should have certainly raised it to my level. Look at this video. And that didn't happen.
So, Dave, we heard the mayor earlier today apologize for how this has been handled, saying that she knew she lost trust from people for how this went down. But you've got to think that she maybe is looking around at who she's trusting in her leadership team as she's realized that this information got to her in a haphazard manner. And now we have this fallout to deal with.
Exactly. When you heard my question to her about people you trust, did you notice that she didn't answer that? She didn't say they were people I trusted. She did say they were people in her administration, which is a big red flag right there. She's very angry that she says that she was not told about it, that this was kept from her, or she may possibly was insulated. She's not happy about how this all went down, and she says she's doing a top-to-bottom review on who saw the video, whose hands it might have gotten into. I asked her, did you keep a log? Do you even know who had access to this video? Who watched it? Anyone? Was it in the police department? Was it in the law department? Who saw this? She doesn't know. She's going to look into that.
Yeah, and let's not forget, though, while she may be trying to win the empathy Olympics today, she knew about this Tuesday, she knew about this Wednesday. We saw very different sides of the mayor in the past 2 days. And today we saw a very emotional, empathic one. That one didn't exist a couple days ago. So one needs to think about that too. This is one of the big changes, though, Mayor Lightfoot promised this afternoon because of our reporting. This wrangling over video, the back and forth, should we release it, should we not? Lightfoot says she's making an immediate policy change so victims will no longer have to fight for their own body camera video.
Anytime a person who's a victim request information about an incident that happened to them, our government's obligation is to respond in a fulsome, transparent, and immediate way. We will change our policies and procedures to make sure that a victim who reaches out shouldn't have to file a FOIA request, should just get the information that they seek.
Of course, there still is the issue about sanctions. The city originally said it was going after Anjanette Young and her attorney to punish them over the video's release. Then Mayor Lightfoot yesterday said that's not happening, which is true in part. Late yesterday, city lawyers amended their court filing, clarifying that they are not seeking to sanction Young personally. They are still seeking to sanction her attorney, though. A hearing on that is scheduled for Tuesday. As powerful and dramatic as Anjanette's story is, it is not an isolated incident. Chicago police have made countless mistakes that lead to these wrong rates.
Yeah, and noted there, they're still going after her attorney. For more than 2 years now, the CBS 2 investigators have been documenting individual cases, trying to put together a big picture look at these deep cultural issues at the department. But at every turn, we've been met with anything from lack of transparency to downright stonewalling.
Do you remember what the police did to that door?
They knocked that door off.
They knocked it off?
That thing.
4-year-old Lily was with her grandma, Sharon Lyons, when police busted into their home.
Next thing I know, the whole panel to the side of my door came flying down.
They are the latest victims of a bad Chicago police raid.
For them people to come in my house like that, it ain't did me no good.
It happened in February, just 1 month after CPD sat down with the CBS 2 investigators and made a commitment to put a stop to these wrong raids.
We don't want to see that happen. We don't want to erode the trust with the community.
The commitment to change how police obtain and execute search warrants came nearly 2 years after the CBS 2 investigators started exposing a disturbing pattern of officers raiding the homes of innocent families in Chicago's black and brown neighborhoods. And yet they did it again.
And that's when they had the machine guns and whatever guns them was, they was in my face.
You can still see the damage to Sharon Lyons' door as the raid team was on the hunt for a drug dealer police only knew by the name of Blondie. We'd show you a mugshot of Blondie, but they don't have one. According to the complaint for search warrant, they took the word of a paid informant who said Blondie was selling drugs in the apartment building, but didn't know Blondie's real name and could only describe Blondie as a black transgender woman about 5'9" with a blonde wig. And then, without independently verifying who Blondie really was, broke through this door.
This is from the police. When they hit it with whatever they hit it with.
Her door is among many in black and Latino communities where we found the vast majority of search warrants are executed by Chicago police.
Chicago police! Wrong door!
We really wanted to know how often wrong raids happen, but the police department, after a year of telling us they do track wrong raids, finally admitted they don't. In the end, our reporting forced them to turn over whatever records they do have, and they gave us this. It's a database of every search warrant executed from 2016 to 2019. There were a total of 6,800. After we mapped the data, we quickly learned it's not just about how often these warrants were executed, but where.
They use a tank, ram the door.
Our mapping found the neighborhood with the most is Inglewood, where Sharnia Phillips was wrongly raided in 2017.
I could have been killed.
Inglewood had 872 search warrants. Also in the top 5 neighborhoods are Austin with 668, North Lawndale 455, Garfield Park 442, and Humboldt Park with 376. Census data shows these neighborhoods are all nearly 90% or more black and Latino. We found only a small percentage happen in white neighborhoods, and none listed for Edison Park, Printers Row, Wrigleyville, Museum Campus, and Magnificent Mile.
We the targets, black people.
Demetrius Laban and his sister were also wrongly raided in 2017 in the North Lawndale neighborhood.
I was scared.
Sharon Lyons' neighborhood, back of the yards, ranked 7th for the most search warrants with 290.
Get out.
She says her son Julius, who has autism, started to run when he saw the guns and her on the floor.
My mom. On floor.
Were you afraid for them all?
Yeah. Scared.
Police then searched the apartment where no one had ever heard of anyone named Blondie and found nothing, no drugs at all. Our analysis of CPD's own data shows 72% of search warrants were for illegal drugs. So how often do police find drugs? Out of the 4,900 drug-related search warrants, they only confiscated drugs in 221 cases. That's less than 5% of the time. Like here in 2019, during this wrong raid for drugs on the Archie family, all police found were 3 terrified children who they pointed guns at and ordered to the floor.
Please do not shoot me.
You're fine.
And during the most recent raid on the Lyons family,
Did they point the guns at you? They did?
Lily's uncle James couldn't believe they pointed a gun at her.
You're here in handcuffs, and you're on the ground, but you're thinking about your niece.
They went through with their guns out, and I just heard my niece start screaming. She was so helpless at the time. Like, none of us could have helped her.
Of course, we're going to make mistakes, but we can't keep making the same mistakes over and over without putting procedures and policies in place.
Newly appointed police superintendent David Brown wasn't in Chicago when all these raids happened, but is well aware of CBS 2's ongoing investigation.
Thank you so much for the story. I really believe that journalism has a role to play in making sure government does what it's supposed to do, and it's exposed when it doesn't do the job in the right ways.
You're seeing a few stories here. You're seeing people terrorized and traumatized in their own homes. You're seeing children traumatized at the sight of weapons pointed at them and their families. But there's another story that you also just saw, and that's data that we were able to compile. It's a dogfight to get that data, and it shouldn't be that way. It's taken us 2 years to get that data, to tell you that story about where these raids were happening and to what people they were happening to, what neighborhoods they were happening in. And that's the battle that we've had for the last 2 years during our series on Warranted and trying to get answers. And that's why Anjanette Young came to us, because she saw stories like this.
Yeah, and it's through those numbers that were ultimately led to the damage that this causes to real people, often for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's those kids, that young man with autism. It breaks your heart. Dave, during your one-on-one interview with the mayor, you challenged her about how hard it was to even get simple information like what we just saw.
So that's exactly what I did, and she said I shouldn't have to have that kind of problem to get this information. And then I told her what we found, and this was her reaction when it came to what we found on their success rate with drugs. Our investigation found when it came to drug-related search warrants and raids related to drugs, the city found drugs in less than 5% of the cases.
That's a problem.
Should we be the ones that have to do that audit?
No, of course not. The CBS 2 should not be, in effect, the Inspector General, the auditor of the police department. And again, as I said, we have requested a top-to-bottom review of search warrants, both pending litigation and search warrants that have taken place since the new protocols went in place. And that information will be revealed. And we will proceed accordingly, and there's got to be accountability. Someone's home is sacrosanct. It's your sanctuary. You should feel safe when you walk into your home and you shut the door from the outside world. Under our system of laws and our Constitution, there are very limited circumstances where that sanctuary can be breached. And we have to take that seriously.
We keep hearing the promise of there needs to be a review, there needs to be an investigation, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to put this policy in place. Nothing seems to work, and that's the real problem here. Is anything really being done? Brad and Marie?
Yeah, Dave, as the mayor remembered facts on our wrong raids reporting, she and Police Superintendent David Brown announced policy changes. Let's list them. Among them, verification of information from a confidential informant. That informant cannot be paid or receive compensation to reduce the chance of false information. Also, no-knock warrants may only be approved if there is a danger to life or safety. Such warrants must now be approved by a high-level bureau chief. And additional body cameras will be added to every unit or officer who might serve a warrant. Of course, they'll have to turn them on.
Dave, the mayor keeps saying that she was not mayor when police raided Anjanette's home, but it has been 2 years.
It's been 2 years, and she's been the mayor for a long time of that 2 years, and that video has been sitting around for ever since she's been in office. And there's, like she said, once she saw it, she knew it was wrong. So that means everyone who saw it knew it was wrong, and that's her administration. And ever since she's been in office, people in her administration have had access to that video. So we asked her about accountability.
As I've said, and I'll repeat it again, there must be accountability.
But it's been 2 years.
There must be accountability, and there will be accountability.
Well, how long do we have to wait?
I don't think that 2 years is appropriate.
Actually, the Mendez rate is...
I don't think... Let me just finish, Dave, please. I don't think 1 year is appropriate. These have to be taken seriously. They need to be done thoroughly, but on an expedited basis.
So, you hear me questioning her there about the time that she's been in office, and these things are still happening. We've brought countless cases to the city with video evidence from police, their own body cameras, where they're caught on camera admitting to acts that should be disciplined or maybe even investigated on a criminal nature. There's so much evidence out there. What does it take? What does it take to get one case completed? We're still waiting. We haven't seen one case of discipline yet in any of the raids we covered.
So let's go back now. The first wrong home raid covered involved the Mendez family. Peter, one of the children who had a gun pointed in his face, was just 9 years old at the time.
Yeah, Dave says when that family first approached him, the ordeal sounded so unbelievable that he was actually skeptical about the story until he started digging and spoke to them.
This is the saddest moment.
They really hurt you that day. 9-year-old Peter is suffering from a trauma he keeps reliving.
The night Chicago police broke down his family's door at dinner time, guns drawn on everyone, including him and his little brother Jack.
They pointed a gun at your dad
Yeah.
and your mom?
Yeah.
And then did they point a gun at your brother? What was it like when that gun was pointed at you?
It was like my life just flashed before my eyes.
You never thought a police officer would do that to you?
No.
When you see interviews like that, more emotional, the trauma, watching these little kids suffer from these experiences by the police department that's supposed to protect them. Anjanette Young was watching these same stories. She was following our series and trying to work the courage up to come to us. She finally did, and she came to us for help.
Yeah, and finally, 2 years later. So let's take a look back at the other innocent people who came before her. Families terrorized by Chicago police repeatedly raiding the wrong homes. We produced a documentary to share their stories last fall. Here again is Unwarranted.